Hello and welcome to the Gunners Town podcast. I'm Gav and it's my honour to host what will hopefully be a weekly 30-minute chat on tactics. With me today are two fellas who are going to try and explain a bit to me about more of the coaching side of the game. So firstly, good evening, Mike.
Hey there, Gav. How you boys? How you doing?
All good, thank you.
Guys.
And also introducing Woz. How you, Woz?
I'm good, Gav. Thank you, mate. Good. Looking forward to getting stuck in and having a little chat with you guys and see where we go.
Yeah, like I say, I mean, the main really focus of this is not to really sort of harp back on what's been happening in recent games, but just to sort of go through the tactics that Arteta might be employing, tactics that we feel might sort of improve the squad, etc., etc. So we'll see what ends up. We'll see how it ends up. Yeah. Yep. Right, the format is pretty simple. Like myself, we're going to go for 10 minutes on 3 different subjects. The first one, which I'll head over to Mike. What are the advantages and disadvantages of our current 3-4-3 formation?
Okay, well, let's go with some advantages. Be happy to start with. Now, this first part is more guesswork than good coaching now per se, but I'm imagining that the base idea of playing with the 3-4-3 that we currently play with and have done for about a month now was based on whether we want to try to keep the game close and nick or win where we can, or whether we want to play to our strengths and make it an open game. And this is what I mean by that. And I think it's been proven that in every game bar the Man City one, which was a bit of an anomaly, nearly got that wrong, due to the injuries and sending off, Arsenal have kept every game close. We wish, of course, Arsenal would win each game by 2 or 3, but with the current squad, I think that's a good coaching tactic. And he's decided to go and try and keep the game close and play 3 centre-backs, which is an additional weaker player, per se. Ideally, we would rather have one of Luiz, Kolasinac and Mustafi sit on the bench and Saka start. I think everybody would agree there. But I think Arteta wants to keep the game close and play with that security of 3 of those guys who he doesn't really have any much faith in, as the fans do either. Rather than just say, okay, we could do it the other way. We can play to our strengths. We could play, let's say, a 4-2-3-1. We could play, I know Saka in training, apparently he's been playing as an attacking midfielder, so we could play him there. That gets him in the team, which solves one problem that Arsenal have right now, is where does this guy play? You could play Aubameyang at centre forward as well, because you don't need that centre forward to check back and be the creative hub like Lacazette and Nketiah have tried to do. Aubameyang can stay high and just feed from balls, shorter balls from an attacking midfielder and run in behind. And then you could have the wings taken up by one of Nelson, Saka, Pepe. Martinelli, I think, is a big factor in this, even though he wasn't playing as much. I think, in my mind, I'd have been very interested, and I wonder if Arteta was looking at playing Aubameyang in the middle, but having more goals in the team with Martinelli on the left. So you've got Aubameyang and Martinelli, and then Pepe with Saka behind. And that would have been a more open game. Now, we could do that. But then how much more or less confidence do we have by having 2 of Luiz, Mustafi, Kolasinac holding? And so I'm not blaming the coach there, because I think that it's been proven over the larger spread of games rather than just the other day that the 3 at the back makes us more secure. And then moving on to my next thought, I think it actually fits the profile of players that we have. And as a coach, that's what you have to do. It annoys me very much that there's too many professional coaches that have one system. Jose Mourinho would be one. Seems to have one way of playing, regardless of the players that he has. He wants to play and cede possession, and then he wants to counterattack. And it doesn't seem to matter which players he's given, whereas a good coach should look at his players and pick the formation. And I think that this actually suits our centre-backs, because it makes them feel more comfortable, because they get too stressed ordinarily playing in a 4. They're just not individually and collectively good enough yet until we get better defenders. I think it suits the central midfielders who are doing quite well. And without Torreira as the natural defensive mid, he hasn't been available for the majority of time. We're limited as to who we could even play. Guendouzi's obviously not playing. Maitland-Niles, he doesn't seem to trust. And so this system with the wing backs, it seems to suit any combination of those guys that he plays as wing backs. The front three are playing in positions that suit them personally. So I applaud Arteta for finding a formation that fits most every player on the team that you want to see on the field. And I feel for him in the same token, because I bet you that this is not what he wants to do. It's just what he has to do. Couple more points on the plus side. Coming from City, one thing that I've seen that Arteta does very well is he enlarges the pitch. And so the 3-4-3 with 3 at the back and then plus 2 extra defenders out wide can stretch offensively the pitch as wide as you want, which is what we're doing, giving everybody individual space. And therefore, that makes it harder for the other team zonally to cover all of the gaps if you can play through them. And that's ideally, coaching-wise, what you want to do is make the pitch as big as you can both ways when you're attacking, and then make it compact when you're defending. I also would add that I like the fact that our exit routes out of defence, the ball in modern football spends most of its time in the back, and it starts in the back, and there's these exit routes. Do you want to go through the middle? Do you want to go out wide? And Arsenal are not technically secure enough and don't have the numbers in the midfield to go through the middle. And it's so compact, so they go exit out the side, and they've got these 2 high wing backs that they can exit through. It's not always working, but the general idea is more intelligent than trying to go through the middle, where they're waiting to pounce on players like Guendouzi and Xhaka, who always get pounced on. So I like that factor, and the attacking mid, which I know that maybe Woz is going to get into when he talks about what's missing from the squad. So I don't want to talk too much about that, but it's rare these days to find a true attacking midfielder in a 4-2-3-1 in any top European team. Most of them, they're flair players out wide, and they come in. They don't have a number 10 like Ozil, who just sits in that compact, tight space, trying to thread those tight balls through. You have to get that player to go to one side and overload a 2-on-1 on the wing, 3-on-2, or come inside, which I wish that we would do more, and get Pepe to come in to the middle, drag his defender around and come and receive it there. So they're the positives. Quickly on the downside, as I said earlier, there are more of our quote-unquote weaker players out there than our stronger players. And you could be more simplistic about it and just say, okay, why don't we just play to our strengths? Why don't we get more of our stronger players on the field? So let's get Saka on the field and get Kolasinac off the field. And that sounds like that works. But then you've got to created that lack of security and that increased stress that we all feel in the back four, because that didn't work either. Of course, you stifle Aubameyang. A lot of people are wanting Aubameyang to play centre forward. Okay, well, in this system, almost impossible. And as much as we like Aubameyang in front of goal, this system, because there's no attacking midfielder, there's no one to connect, you have to have your centre forward or a drifting forward make that connection. And he is not good with his back to goal. It's just not his game. He is all about receiving balls in front of him for him to run onto, or crosses for him to finish. So you can't really play Aubameyang at centre forward unless you have a drifting player or the attacking mid in this 3-4-3. I wish, and again, I'm not blaming the coach, but the reality of watching Arsenal now, I'm sure you guys see it, is our playmakers are actually our defenders and our wing backs. The ball spends so much time going back and forth across the back, and then it goes out to the wing backs, and they have to make something happen. They have to make some kind of accurate pass. It's not being Ceballos and Xhaka are just there to just retain the ball and knock it back and forth and switch the play, but not really creating anything. Can I? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, sorry, just to pick up on what you were saying, because, like I say, I understand completely what you're saying with regards to the fact that even though we're possibly not playing our best 11 players, we're playing the best formation that we can with the players that we actually have available. So I understand that bit. And when we're talking about a 3-4-3, a lot of times I'm seeing a 5-2-3.
Yeah.
So I'm not seeing the wing backs actually come inside too much. I'm not seeing them. I mean, I don't know if we want to bring Woz in on this one. Do you think that the way we're set up at the moment, we would look more solid in the middle if the wing backs did sort of push inside the pitch a little bit, and perhaps that would give the 3 forward players more space to go wide?
Yeah, I think with regards to that, I mean, the way he's setting up at the moment with the 3 centre backs, as Mike rightly said, I think a lot of it is about spacing and connecting defensively. So, like we saw before, the amount of times people like Granit Xhaka are left on his own with Guendouzi alongside him, they're running around like headless chickens. Now, when you look at our defensive statistics and the way we are covering, Xhaka and Ceballos are winning a lot of ball. We're closer. The 3 centre backs are in there, and yes, we are more sturdy. And as Mike rightly said, as a result, going forward, we're sort of less creative, and we do rely on these fullbacks. Now, I think with the attacking wing backs, if you've got the 3 centre backs and you've got the 2 midfielders sat in front, the whole idea of Pepe and Aubameyang almost becoming second strikers. So when Lacazette's dropping in, the wing backs are going past, and the idea is to hit the byline, and the opposite one of the front 3 is getting in at the back post. And unfortunately, time and time again, we've seen with Laka, if he does come short, he's really going to struggle to get there and get at the front post and get in the box after. So we're sort of creating the ball in the final third, but our 2 sort of, as you say, wide men. And we saw the examples with Aubameyang, the chances he had against Spurs. We got it wide across the box, and he's there. So really, them wing backs, their job is exactly as Mike said. That is the exit plan. That is the strategy, and that is where the creativity in this team comes. But then you start to encounter issues like we did against Spurs, where they just sat 2 men, Sissoko and Moore, and they sat them in and just blocked that exit route, and then we had nothing in the middle of the park. So we become a bit one-dimensional, and it's not very exciting to watch. And when they stifle it, we need sort of another strategy. But I think what you're saying with tucking in and being more solid, I don't think we've been too bad defensively, especially through the heart of our team. We've made individual errors, but collectively, I think we've actually done pretty well since we've come back. And I do agree that I don't think this is Arteta's long-term plan. I just think at the moment he's feeling this is the best way we can trust ourselves and move forward till the end of the season. And when you look at the previous results, a lot of the incidents have come down to individual errors. We've been unlucky with the Eddie red card and the VAR and all sorts of things like that. We're looking at margins, whereas before in games we were capitulating, we were creating holes everywhere, there was havoc, and now we're just at a stage where you're seeing that the players aren't just quite of the level, and tactically he's doing all he can, but you'll only get to a level. And Jurgen Klopp went through exactly the same scenario at Liverpool, and I'm very positive with what he's doing with the 3-4-3, simply because it shows me that he's not married to one formation, and he's got that flexibility there. So we're losing a lot by 3-4-3, but also we can gain a lot. And I think we're going through the motions a bit here, and he's kind of sort of figuring out this squad and what people can offer him. And I just think, like Mike touched on at the moment, that 3-4-3, the way he sees it with the attacking fullbacks and sort of Aubameyang and Pepe being inside forwards, and he's trying to get it all to work. And at times it has worked beautifully. We've made some unbelievable moves, but when we are stifled, we've got no creativity at all. So it's a bit of a 50-50, mate.
That's what I was looking at. I'm going to actually split the running order up of what I said to you earlier, just because it's going to make more sense. Because I wanted to see a bit more passion, more aggression in the side, and this goes to the next question that we're going to move on to. What is the most important profile of a player we're missing from the current squad? Now, I'll go back to you and start with you on this one, Woz.
Yeah, there's a couple of glaring issues at the moment. Obviously, without Mesut Ozil, and we all know about Mesut Ozil, and people have their opinions on him, whether you like him or not, the fact of the matter is the way he plays football is clearly something that we were missing, and we have been missing. There's not people, although people say number 10s are sort of non-existent in football anymore, there's a new hybrid of player. People like Bruno Fernandes, you've got Nicolo Zaniolo, there's plenty of players like that can play as an 8, but also break and get in them creative pockets. And I think eventually he may well go to that 4-3-3, but I think that creative option, and it is an option, because we've got to understand that top teams have top players that miss out and they rotate, and then dependent on the game, we might well play 3-4-3. We might well play 4-3-3. We might play 4-2-3-1. But the flexibility is what is key. And at the moment, we're a bit stifled because we do not have that player to play in the pockets. And we do not have a goal-scoring midfielder to break from deep. So that is huge. I think.
Are you talking about someone like? Are you talking like someone like a Ramsey, or to go a bit to go even back further? Are you talking someone like what Scholesy used to do for Man United? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, I mean, nowadays, them sort of players, Mesut Ozil is exclusively a creative player that will play behind the striker in that hole, picking up pockets, recycling the ball. He moves in them areas. Now you've got people that are comfortable moving from deep, and Ramsey was almost, for me, I didn't personally like him as a 10, and it was almost he was there ahead of his time as trying to play in that role, but because he could break from deep well. But I think that the more modern footballers, they're more mobile, physical, intelligent, and they seem to have a bigger range of attributes than just being able to collect the ball between the lines. So, I mean, you look like, I don't want to refer to Bruno Fernandes again, but he was scoring goals for fun out in Portugal, and you didn't know what would happen when he comes to this country. But a player like that who can just step in, and he could equally play central midfield as he could up behind the strikers. And there is plenty of these players about, and they're sort of a new breed that are coming through. And then also you've got other exciting like Kai Havertz and talents like that. He could play equally as a number 9 as he does a bit deeper. So we definitely need that creative player, and whether it's an aggressive midfield running creative player or someone a bit higher up, we need that option in our squad. And I think the other thing that we really lack is genuine physicality in the middle of the park, legs, strength, and running ability. Because I like Danny Ceballos. To be fair, a few weeks ago I was completely not sold on him at all. But out of nowhere, he seems to have gained some confidence, and he's looking a bit more the part. But what he does lack is physicality and the ability to. He bites in a tackle well, and he's positionally quite sound. But to drive with the ball and really be powerful and carry, it's something that we don't have in our side. And we can talk about Patrick Vieira's, but they're a one-off. But there's a lot of. I mean, we're linked with players like Thomas Partey and things like that. And he is that kind of player. He will carry the ball. Go on, mate. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry, just to butt in. Like I say, I'm still like, are you talking sort of like, I mean, I would call that like an old-fashioned box-to-box midfielder. Yeah. Is that the sort of player that you think we need? Like, I mean, obviously, we can't, nobody can be compared to Vieira. But, I mean, you're talking about that sort of, the universal midfielder that's got correct, a little bit of everything.
A little bit of everything,
mate. The goals.
Sorry, because people like Lucas Torreira, he's got great qualities, but he's limited in other areas of his game. Danny Ceballos has got great qualities, but he's limited in the other areas of his game. It's sort of like Joe Willock. Joe Willock has got great running power and great running ability, but he lacks in other areas of the game. And really, we could do with sort of combining, I know it sounds funny, but combining Ceballos, Willock, Guendouzi and Torreira, and that's the player we need. But they do exist because they are out there, but you've just got to spend the cash. And so with regards to the most important one, I think for next season, I think it is very important to have a creative influence in there, because we are limited. Otherwise, we will struggle to change. And I think even if he does go away from the 4-3-3, if he does go to the 4-3-3, I'd like to see Saka as the left of the 3 midfielders. Actually, I think that could be a good role for him. But yeah, like bringing someone in, I definitely do think that powerful presence in midfield, that guy you're going to look at in the tunnel and go, I'm in for a game here today. But obviously, he's going to have immense ability as well.
You want, like I say, you're looking at a 6 foot plus.
Yes, mate. Yeah.
You're not, you don't want. You're not looking for a Jack Wilshere type of.
No.
Sort of, you want sort of like a physical presence as well. Look,
that's comfortable on the ball and can carry the ball as well. And it's becoming a big part of the game. I mean, obviously, when we changed from that era of the Invincibles, and then we almost copied Barcelona's blueprint, and we went small and aggressive, small and football fleet-footed midfielders, and really, time has come where right through the spine we need a big horrible centre back, a big horrible midfielder. But obviously, to get these guys, you need to pay the money, and that's what people like Van Dijk. People laughed at the time, but it's a lot of money. But look what it's transformed, and right through the heart of the big side, you can look at them teams and think, yeah, they've got sort of a mix of everything. And I just think at Arsenal at the moment, we lack a bit of that creativity without Ozil, and we lack a bit of that real physical bite and ball carrying ability in the midfield. And as I say, there's players in our squad that can do bits of everything, but there's not one that can really combine and be that main guy to sort of play alongside Xhaka and make us secure.
Yeah, no, fair one, Michael. I mean, is that where you see the important profile of a player that we're missing? Is that where you can see, or hopefully see us going in a transfer window, if there is one?
Yeah, I agree, 100%. You know, I would rebuild the midfield. Of course, we have essentially 2 new centre backs coming in next year with Saliba, if he's ready. I know that's a big ask because he's, I think, going to be 19 and new to the country, new to the league. And Pablo Mari is essentially a new centre back. So you could say that we'll start the season with a back 4, which is what I think we'd probably like, with those 2 guys playing centre back and be a different proposition. However, they're both going to be new to playing in England in the Premier League. So I want to rebuild the midfield. I'm with Woz. I think that you need, in this modern game, there's 4-3-3 is the formation that most teams use, and they have a destroyer. And they have a ball carrier, like you'd say a box-to-box player, and then they have a technical passer of the ball. And we don't even have those players in our squad, or certainly they're not being utilised. And interestingly enough, the ones that we could patch together that kind of situation, Torreira, of course, has been injured much. Ainsley Maitland-Niles, who's just been reported, I think, is looking to leave. That just came out today. Is the one in the squad. I've been very disappointed over the years that, for whatever reason, he hasn't trusted him to play, because he is a modern, athletic, fast, line-breaking midfielder, but hasn't been given that opportunity. And Joe Willock, hasn't been given the opportunity in a 3. He always plays at number 10, and I think he'd be better in a midfield 3. So I would do exactly what Woz says and go rebuild the midfield, find a destroyer. I like Ndidi of Leicester, be hard to get him. I like Axel Witsel of Dortmund. He brings experience as well. And I love Thomas Partey. And Thomas Partey is exactly what Woz was talking about. I think he's the closest you're going to get to a Vieira type. Apart from he's not particularly fast, but he's very athletic, powerful, strong, great ball carrier, one of the best in Europe statistically.
He does get a lot of bookings though. Like I say, I'm not like you boys. I don't watch every game of football on the telly. But I did look at his stats, and I think he got something like 12 bookings in 26 league games, something stupid like that. So,
but don't they all for Atletico Madrid? Playing for Atletico, I think they all get. I think they're supposed to get a booking, otherwise they get fined, don't they, by Simeone?
don't you think though, Gav? Like in quite a nice way, that would be nice to have in our midfield, providing it don't boil over. I mean, we saw how many times. I know we want to refer to Vieira, but we know his record. He was an absolute nutcase, and he was targeted by referees and other players and things like that. But people knew you couldn't mess with him because he wouldn't have it. Yeah. And sometimes I just think there's that line. Yeah, let's. Sometimes you need to do that, commit that foul, put that challenge in, be too strong, and it makes people wake up and think, "Cool, do you know what? I'm in for a game here tonight. I don't want it with this geezer. I don't look at the size of him. Like, he's not going to take any sort of nonsense off me." But what I get what you're saying is it an issue? Will he cross the line in England, like never playing here and things like that? But I'd love to see. I'd love to find out.
If you boys are saying that he's that good and he's that the answer, I'm not going to sort of disagree with you, because, like I say, I've never seen him play. I mean, obviously, you go back to the Invincibles, which was literally a team of 6-foot giants who were all very, very skillful, and were all very, very, like I say, they're best players in the world at the time by miles. And a lot of teams, we actually beat them in the tunnel. So I do understand that we, some sort of physical presence and some sort of height may go onto it. Now, I'm going to cut this down because we're going to move on to the final bit, which is about zonal marking at corners. Now, I don't particularly understand that at the moment, especially with the height that we've got in the side. I don't understand. We're going to get out jumped, and where a lot of the players that are on the edge of the 6-yard box are on a standing site, whereas everybody else is jumping in. So I was wondering I'll go to you, Mike, first. Why do we actually do zonal marking at the moment, and why aren't we sort of doing a more man-to-man? Because we've seen like 5'7", 5'8" players marking a fellow that's 6'2". So I don't quite understand why we're sticking to it at the moment, Mike.
Yeah, I would. I would say that Arsenal right now, on average, are one of the smaller teams in the Premier League. Our centre backs in particular, especially the ones we're playing, are not particularly tall, and so that's one issue. I'd also say that the issue in the penalty area versus let's say 10, 15, 20 years ago has changed very much. You know, coaches are training teams to screen, like in basketball, set picks, you know, hold players, block players. And so the reason I think coaches go to, and I think Arteta does both, he does a zonal and he does man for man. There's certain players that are picked up man for man, and most of the players are either on the post or they're zonally around the top of the 6-yard box. But they do that so that the players can have opportunity to attack the ball, even though, as you said, Gav, from a standing start, not ideal, but they're not picked off and they're not screened and they're not blocked or thrown to the ground. You know, you could quite honestly give a penalty kick at any given time if you're a referee in any Premier League game at a corner kick, because somebody's doing something that you could never get away with anywhere else on the field. And so I think that's why they do it. I'm not a fan. I'd rather go with man for man, and I definitely put my taller players, not just on their taller players, but the ones that are most statistically dangerous from corner kicks, because Kieran Tierney trying to watch Alderweireld or Danny Ceballos trying to watch whoever it was, Willy Bolly or whatever it was the other day, is patently ridiculous. And I know that that's just very basic, fundamental level thinking, but sometimes football's just as simple as that. You can't do that. Even if it means having a Aubameyang who's 4 inches taller but isn't particularly aggressive, go mark Willy Bolly. Danny Ceballos does not need to be doing that. And I think that that's the number one core issue, is the responsibility from the coaches and from the players. Who in particular is picking up their main danger men?
I mean, what was? I'll go to you then. So when, as like I say, as you are, we're sort of trying to set up half zonal, half man for man marking. Obviously, there is. They must plan for this. They must know who the danger men are at corners. And we've seen as Mike rightly said, we've seen a few too many mismatches at corners. Is Arteta getting it right with the zonal marking and the corner marking at the moment?
Yeah, I think it's a real niche area, because the best coaches in the world all have different opinions on it, and that just shows you how varied it is. Some will go man for man, some will only go zonal, some will do a mixture of both, and I think sometimes because it's because a set piece, people watch it and they see it and it happens. Sometimes you've got to admit that it's a great ball and a great header, and sometimes that does happen. It's not always, oh my God, look at that error, he's not done this, he's not done that. Don't get me wrong, a lot of times there are errors, and like I said, with a set piece, if you go man for man, you've lost your man, that's your problem. But also, if you go zonally, well, this is your zone, this is your problem. So I think sometimes players have to take a bit of nous. So like you said, I mean, even playing in Sunday League football, after one corner, you see who's the danger man in the air. Then that's when the leaders of the team maybe have got to come out and say, hang on, we've got to sort this out here. But also, interestingly, I think zonally, it could be a thing with zonally. If the keeper collects the ball, the team are ready to spring. And I kind of think that's half the thought process. I know it sounds ridiculous thinking about going forward when you're defending, but a lot of times when teams catch the ball and they counter, I mean, all the great sides counter unbelievably quick, but they get out and they're all in the right areas. And I'm sure in training they practice this. There's deliveries coming in, they win the ball, keeper wins the ball when they go and they release, and the fullbacks have gone, and do you know, it's all happening before it's even happened, if you know what I mean. So there's all sorts of, I mean, what do I prefer? It's very, very difficult. I think it needs to be circumstantial. When you've got players like Andy Carroll and people like that, you've got to defend differently. It's just simple as that. You have to pick up, like you said, the key men, and also like them zones. They're probably positioned in zones, but if you see Alderweireld, whoever's there, if Tierney or whoever, I've got to get closer to him. Like, I know it's their zone, but surely within your zone, you have to take it upon yourself to give this man some problem. He can't just stand there and head the ball. So I think even though it's not man-to-man marking, they still make errors within zones. So I don't think it's that different. I just think they're not actually picking up an individual each. Instead, they're just looking after a zone. And really, the players, ultimately, it's down to them. And I think that's where the leaders of the team also, like we're saying, pinpointing the key dangers. they've got to say, hang on, look, we need to change this. You can't be marking this guy. Like, it's just not feasible. Like, if it comes in, if it's a good delivery, no matter how good you mark the zone, you ain't stopping one of the best headers on the ball on the team. It's just simple as that. They'll have to run on you. They'll have the position. And if delivery's great, sometimes it's just a good goal. But when you watch it back on slow motion replay and you see our defender stand 3 yards away and the guy's a free header, you think, that's not right. It's just not right. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. What do you reckon, Gav? I mean, I'm not either way. I'm a bit sort of, I can't decide.
Yeah, no, I know what you're saying. I mean, I think we can quite easily go back to the second point that we was talking about. The most important profile for player that we're missing from the current squad is going to be a 6 foot plus, either in central midfield or centre back. Hopefully with Mari coming back, we've probably got a bit of both. So I think basically a lot of it is to do with, and like I say, I mean, I'm not a tall fella, but I think a lot of it is to do with the fact I don't think we actually have the height and the aggression to deal with the corners. Even though, like I say, we did do okay against Sheffield United in the cup. I thought we coped quite admirably there, but I think it's a little bit of training, marking, height, aggression. I think it's a little bit of everything, and so it's tricky. Anyway, boys, we have done 30 minutes, and I promised Chris we'd get this done in 30 minutes. It's been a pleasure talking to you. No, exactly, or he'll take the mickey out of what you're wearing. But yeah, no, like I say, it's been a pleasure doing this. Hopefully we can do this every week or every other week, and perhaps we can go into more in depth with regards to specific positions in the pitch. So thank you for joining me.
Yeah, beautiful,
Top
Gav.
man. Thanks, Gav.
Man.
Cheers, Mike. All the best, mate. Enjoyed that.
Cheers, Woz.
Up the Arsenal.